Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl, I'm a recovery coach here at Capital Recovery Center. This is our Freedom Fridays meeting for the day. The article is Why It's Okay and Important to Mourn Your Past Self in Addiction Recovery. Focus on a brighter future is a cornerstone of addiction recovery, but reconciling the person you are now with your former self can be a complex and painful process. For many, a crucial step towards healing is learning to mourn the past self, the individual whose actions were impacted by substance misuse, acknowledging and grieving who you once were in a transformative aspect of recovery. It goes on to say, understanding an emotional journey. Reflecting on the past, those in recovery often battle a mix of heavy emotions, guilt over past choices, shame about behaviors that no longer align with the person they are today, and perhaps even anger themselves of their addiction and common. While it may feel tempting to suppress their feelings, the path to true healing lies in working through them. That's one of the things I had to do, I think, is to mourn the past of the things I've done, the guilt, the shame, and the chaos and conflict that I caused myself, for one, but also my family and friends. And it talks about painful feelings and emotions, right? And that was one of the reasons I kept on using, was because of my bad behaviors, right? When bad behaviors becomes negative emotions and feelings that come with it. So it's like this cycle of, bad behaviors. Then I would feel bad about it, so I would use. It's just a vicious cycle, and so I had to, one, stop using drugs and alcohol, but then I had to put in the work to uncover some of these emotions and feelings that I suppressed for so many years due to my substance use. So it's definitely it says understanding an emotional journey. It's a roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster, and I've been taught that like we have to hold on because we're definitely going to have our ups and downs, right? And but as long as I don't use, I have a shot at dealing with life and like not causing more harm and pain and more suffering to my loved ones. And I had to start becoming to terms with knowing myself and loving and caring myself. It says why facing your past is essential. Following up emotions prolongs the suffering. By facing the past rather than avoiding it, individuals in recovery create space for acceptance. Therapy helps you separate your true, authentic self from the person shaped by addiction. Things This recognition is pivotal and disconnects harmful actions from one's core identity, laying the groundwork for self-forgiveness and acceptance. That's a big one right there. Self-forgiveness and acceptance, right? I had to forgive myself for things that I've done, right? We have to forgive others. But it was ultimately, I caused a lot of the pain, a lot of suffering to all my friends and family. So I had to forgive myself for doing that stuff, right? And another beautiful thing about recovery is we start to get to know who we are, right? Through working through working on myself, I started to see my assets, right? So I didn't see the good qualities and the assets that I had because I was always creating a lot of chaos, right? I had to, you know, do the things that I did to get drugs and alcohol. And so it was a lot of bad behaviors. It was a lot of negative emotions and feelings that came along with it. So I had to forgive myself for my wrongdoings, right? And with forgiveness, I had to accept the things I've done, and that's tough. It'd be tough, and that's a process that takes time. And that self forgiveness and acceptance, definitely doesn't happen overnight. That is a work in progress to accept and self forgiveness the things that I've done. Says tips for navigating the process of mourning. While the journey of mourning is deeply personal, there are several helpful strategies for the mourning process. It says one-on-one therapy. A qualified therapist provides a safe environment to explore difficult emotions and develop new perspectives on past actions. Yeah, that's a big one. So professional help. and that's something I needed. A lot of us need some professional help. And where I first got my, the one-on-one therapy that I needed, well, not therapy, treatment was the avenue I had to go. The detox, the inpatient, the outpatient, types of stuff like that. And, you get with the professional teams, the doctors, the counselors, and the therapists, and they make a safe environment so we can get through the tough, the detox. And, we're very uncomfortable, still can be today, but we can get very uncomfortable, stop using drugs and alcohol. Now feel like we're exposed, right? We're all these emotions and feeling, we start to feel better, and we don't know why we're feeling so much guilt and shame, and it can be depression, anxiety. It really intensifies because I think the drugs and alcohol can, numb what's really going on with us. And now you strip away the drugs and the substance. Now we're exposed. Now we're left with us, and that can be very uncomfortable. So it's always good to get one-on-one therapy, right away. If that's something that you think you need. And listen, we don't have to, we have to at least try. I always tell people, like, we have to at least try something. It can be many things and many pathways, but we definitely have to, find something that does help us. Support groups, connecting with others who understand the unique challenges of addiction recovery can be incredibly validating. Witnessing others on their healing journeys offers a powerful sense of hope. That helped me big time. The support groups, and I do go to 12-step fellowship, and it says to understand the unique challenges of addiction recovery. So, we go through things and do things in active addiction that we're not so proud of, right? And we think, for me anyway, I was the worst of the worst, and I can't believe I've done this, I can't believe I've done that. And the people that in my support group, right, they understand because they've been there, they've been through it, they've done similar things that I've done, and sometimes even worse, right? So that connection of, like, the disease of addiction had a grip on us, right? Now we're living a different life. Yes, I've done that. I see we share in support groups and share in meetings, and when people will say, like, me too, or they laugh, because they can understand, they can relate. People can relate to your situation and what you've done, and that makes you feel not alone, not isolated anymore. It says journaling, writing down thoughts and feelings can offer a private channel for reflection and processing. Yeah, that's a big one. Put your thoughts down on paper, and you can actually, read it and see it. And, some of the stuff that we do in recovery, we write on, and, go over with a friend or a sponsor or a mentor, to give you a different perspective. Here I can have it up here, but, like, that where that gets us, right? We can justify, rationalize, but when we go over it with somebody and talk with somebody, they can shed some light on things and give us different perspective. It says helping others. Once individuals can gain a degree of understanding of their own experiences, they often find that channeling empathy into supporting others facilitates further personal growth. Yeah, and that's where, like, for me, purpose comes in, is helping others. I know when we stay here long enough in recovery, we shed the selfish self-centeredness, and we start to day by day be selfless, and not always, right? We get better here, but the purpose is giving back to others what was given to me, people helping me, supporting me, and giving me some suggestions and giving me a different perspective on my life, and showing me how to live life without using drugs and alcohol, and dealing with my emotions, feelings in a healthier way, and then I pass that along to somebody else. It says writing on the next chapter. It says mourning your past self is not synonymous With dwelling on regrets, it's about discovering self acceptance, a vital component of well rounded recovery. By confronting the darker aspects of the past, you empower your true self to thrive in the present. Yeah, I had to shed some light on things, right? And thank God for people in recovery. Thank God for my solid foundation that I built in early recovery and the support network that I built, and like a sponsor and the people I love and trust and I can confide in. If it wasn't for them, helping me and showing me um, to live differently, I definitely would not be here. So, like, for me, I try to live life on my terms for many, many years, right? I tried to do things my way, my will, and I wasn't willing to listen to anybody. I was very self-righteous. I was rebellious, and that carried on from being a young kid to a teenager to my adult life. And it got me in a lot of trouble. And I had to confront like the stuff that I'd been through and the stuff that I did. And, like I always said, first and foremost, I had to stop using, you know, um, and to actually stop using to actually, uncovering some of the stuff that I didn't want to deal with. Right. And I put this like wall up, and I put like a whole bunch of stuff in front of my recovery um, before I even tried. Right, I never gave recovery a shot because I was too afraid. Fear ran my life, and fear ran a lot of things in my life, and but I never like really gave it a fair shake. Like I went to treatment, or I would get locked up, or institution, and like short periods of time I would be clean off of drugs and alcohol, but I would repeat the same cycle. Right, I had no defense against the disease of addiction. Right, I didn't have no coping skills. Right, I didn't know how to deal with my emotions and feelings. Right. Yes, I was abstinent for a period of time, a short period of time, but I didn't know how to live with or without drugs and alcohol. So until somebody gave me some suggestions and gave me a different perspective, and start to basically walk alongside of me, and like help me through this journey, and it still continues to this day. But I had to let go, and my way wasn't working. It wasn't working for many, many years, and until I accepted and surrendered, and let go, my life continues to get better. When I can get out of my own way, right, and actually listen to somebody and pay attention and take their suggestions like action, right, to listen and actually apply what is tell people are telling me, right. I start to get better. My life started to get better. My relationships start to get better, right. And like even when I do fall short, right, we're not perfect. We're human. We make mistakes, and like we fall short, but like I don't have to stay stuck. I have people in my life who will encourage me. They love and care about me, and they would just, encourage me to try to not repeat the same mistakes, right? Try to learn from them. And the great thing about recovery is I can learn from others' mistakes than my own, right? Because I was always the one bumping my head against the wall, and trying something different. Now I can learn from others. It's a lot easier to learn from others than learning your own. But we have to go through what we go through to get better. So it says finding a healthy balance between processing the past and living in the present is an ongoing practice. Stay open to feeling difficult emotions when they arise. Reach out for support when you need it, and continuously focus on doing the next right thing. True healing is a lifelong journey, and acknowledging the person you were is vital, and embracing the person you are becoming. Yeah, about being grateful for like I'm actually grateful for my past today. From all the pain and suffering I endured. I didn't like it. I didn't. Like if I can change it, maybe I would, but like, it just, my past is my past, and now I gotta capitalize on it. I have to utilize the pain and the suffering and the chaos and conflict that I was living. Now I gotta capitalize on it so I can, be there for somebody else, right? So I like, being there when somebody does come into recovery and like they don't see the hope. Like, man, I've done this, I've been through this, I can't get better. All the stuff that we have and all the stuff, the excuses that we come in with, and all the, like I said, the guilt, the shame, and it's like, well, yeah, you did do that, right? But no, we don't have to stay in that, right? How do we get past that? How do we get past the past? It's only going forward. It can be uncomfortable. It can be very uncomfortable dealing with and expressing and like, especially going over with somebody else, like talking with the sponsor and stuff like that, and or a friend or a family member. It can be uncomfortable, right? But for me, it definitely frees me up when I, write it down or I go over it with somebody. Um, I feel like a weight off my shoulders. I don't hold on to it, because I know for me, we can hold on to a lot of baggage when we get into recovery, right? Only thing that does is, it creates misery. I want to be free, right? I want to be free from all this. I want to stop using drugs and alcohol first and foremost, but I want to be free from all the shameful, guilty things that I've been through and done. It doesn't have a place in my life today. I, the uncomfortable emotions and feelings, they do arise. They talked about it here. They do arise. It happens. There's no getting around it, right? But I have better ways to deal with it today. I don't have to stay stuck in them uncomfortable emotions and feelings, right? I can express myself, um, in a healthy manner, and I can get the help that I need if I'm just open and honest. So that was our Freedom Fridays meeting for the day. This is why it's okay and important to mourn your past self and addiction recovery. If I didn't tell you Merry Christmas was just passed, and we're going into the new year. So let's, focus on being grateful for the things that we do have and the things that we don't have. Until next time, my name is Carl. I'm a recovery coach here at Cap Recovery Center. Until next time, we'll see you later.